let's get today's enhancement subgroup started. Thanks again, Mitch, for joining us. I am going to share my screen so we can go over the agenda for today. Okay, great. So, as you know, right now, I think everyone in Istio is celebrating the last release, which was a really huge one. And I thought today we will actually like review what was our previous milestone and reflect on it, see what went well, if we are happy with it, if there are other things that we want to add to the work that we did there so that we can populate like the current future release planning that's happening in the community. So I'm not sure if you recall, Mitch, but our main milestone goal was to actually promote telemetry API. And we got that promoted to V1, thankfully, as well as um, several of the other core APIs that have been as V1 beta one for a while. They also got promoted to V1. So that was a huge win. It was really nice to see all of core APIs. We can really say that it is V1 now, at least from the API stance of things. So yeah, I'm curious your thoughts in terms of like with that work done, we can successfully say like milestone one is complete. But is there any follow-up work that you can think of that we will want to stay involved in regards to these API promotions?
Well, I love your focus with me on continuing to drive it forward. That's awesome, but I do think you need to pause and take a victory lap. The telemetry API has been in the wings for promotion since
2+ years, right? Yeah,
2021,
yeah, so more
2022.
than two
It's been a
years,
long
definitely.
time, and it's stagnated for a long time. A lot of our users were impacted. So thank you to you for driving all of that work and for the many other people who contributed, getting pull requests pushed through and everything else. I think this is a big win for the community.
I agree. Thank you so much. And I listened to your panel that you did at KubeCon, and this is definitely a core problem where we can now reassure that to our users that the APIs are stable, and that we wouldn't just like pull it out from underneath them in a moment's
Yes.
notice. Yeah, cool. Thank you. So I did my victory lap. So I guess now what's next? I know as we several stuff came up in the API discussions around like implementation versus API. So I was thinking that could be a potential area of like follow up in the sense that we have the APIs as V1. We are not sure if all of their implementations are also like considered stable, as well as in telemetry API itself, there are a couple of fields that we didn't promote to stable. Hey, Mike. So some background is like we're reflecting on the API promotion, see if there's any follow-up work that we want to stay responsible for as like from the enhancement subgroup point of view. Yeah.
Well, thinking of telemetry in particular, I do know that we have some open questions regarding the future of the telemetry API with ambient. It works well with sidecar mode. That's why it's gone to V1. But with ambient and beta, we should probably make sure that we have a cohesive vision for how telemetry works across both environments. Um, we've heard some pushback that telemetry, a lot of the telemetry API sort of functionality can be replicated with some of the new open telemetry tools, the OTel collector. But I suspect from what I've heard that there's also some of the things that our users want to do with the API that are not duplicated into OTel. So we should get some more certainty around that. I don't know if that's specifically the responsibility of the enhancements subgroup, but it's definitely some work to be done.
Yes, and in regards to like passing some of the telemetry API responsibilities upstream, I know that's something that we really would like to do, but at least from what I heard, there wasn't any owners upstream, so there isn't any like momentum there, and it will, I guess we can't really wait on that until it actually lands.
Yeah,
By upstream, do you mean the like theory around waiting for stuff in the OTel project, like CRDs?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Like
Okay.
depending on hotel. Yep.
Yeah, I think just like having a better understanding of like what works, what gaps are, and like what functionality is missing would be a great start.
I like that. Okay. Those are really good call outs. I think ambient will be the highest priority, at least from for us to get like developer momentum, capacity. I think that can be a really good one. Thanks for
Yeah,
highlighting
agreed.
that. In terms of like the other core APIs, is there any top of mind, any context you'll have around any problems with those? Let me pull it up so that we can actually see it, see what we are talking about. So this is like the state of like APIs in Istio right now. And in this past release, we got like the networking. Let's see what we promoted. We got destination rule, gateway, service entry, sidecar, all of these promoted. But I feel like, at least from what I've observed in my time in Istio, folks aren't really complaining about these.
yeah,
I guess we can move on from that then. Cool.
Aren't complaining as in like have been using successfully without like significant problems or anything like that. So like just the V1's like recognizing they're stable and they're stable enough probably.
Yeah, there aren't any issues or bugs being reported still. Um, and I take that to mean stable for the most part, or at least users aren't having any issues when using them.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Cool. I'm curious to see what the user feedback would be when they see that these APIs are V1. It would be nice if users actually speak up and say that they don't think that this should actually be V1, but I doubt that will happen. So we'll keep on monitoring any like feedback that comes in. So with
Yeah.
that, it sounds. Go ahead, sorry, Mike.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think the only potential point of confusion is like V1 as stable versus V1 as like this is the thing you should use. I think there's potentially to pay attention to like messaging around V1. But yeah, I wouldn't expect anybody to say like this is a bad idea. It's probably more like you'll go, oh, this is great. Oh, yeah, my
You
internet
broke
dropped.
up a bit for me, Mike. I don't know if that was just me. Give me one sec. Mitch, did Mike break up for you as well, or that was just for me?
yeah, yeah. I didn't quite
Okay,
get
cool.
what he was saying. Something about V1 is stable, but didn't get the details.
Yeah. What I understood from what I got was I think we're now in a place where we either, I guess, be careful of either forcing users to only use V1 or like just the messaging around um using V1 instead of the others. Yeah. And we lost him completely. So I guess we wait for him to come back.
Sorry, my internet just cut out.
No
Yeah, I
worries.
was just saying the only thing to pay attention to, I think, is going to be the messaging in terms of like when should you use V1 APIs versus like charting the path that like ambient is the future direction of the project that we hope. And that's probably just like website communication stuff more so than anything in this code base itself. But yeah, I would expect user feedback to be like, great, we've been using these in production for a while now. This makes sense.
I like that. I'm happy you were able to come back and explain because I completely missed that.
Cool.
um,
Sorry, yeah.
okay, yeah, that. So does that mean that in terms of like Istio Cycle, it we are really trying to like steer users away from using sidecar stuff if possible.
I think, and Mitch probably has a better take on this than I do. I think that's like a to be determined. Like one of the big gaps in ambient currently is the lack of like interop with sidecar mode. And I know that's like one of the next things that we had talked about in terms of being a priority for like the next releases, addressing that. And then I don't really know what the long Mitch, if you want to time in on like long-term story for sidecars in Istio.
Yeah, the debate that's very active right now is whether compatibility between sidecars and ambient is required so that users can migrate from sidecar to ambient, which seems obvious, like that's certainly going to be the case, or if there is also some sort of stable state where users will want, for multiple versions for perhaps years, to be running both sidecars and ambient mode in a single cluster, in which case, there's sort of a different bar in terms of how well they need to work together, that sort of thing. So that's sort of an active conversation we're having, but at the very least, we have to support the migration case. And with regard to telemetry API in particular, if you've onboarded to the telemetry API, you should reasonably expect that it will continue to work when you migrate to ambient, or at least the vast majority of it.
Yeah, at this time, we're not even sure to what extent it works for ambient. Um, and that would be very interesting for users to migrate to ambient fully, expecting their telemetry resources to still behave as expected, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if we even highlighted that in our release notes. So I think that will be something we might be seeing a lot of like issues coming in for.
Okay, it's good to keep an eye on that.
Cool. So moving on to our next milestone planning. So in the last milestone, we identified that we wanted to deprecate the Istio operator. And Mitch, you started work there as well as John around identifying the gaps. And based on Louis' opinion, it was a matter of like getting ambient to beta first before we can really get like commitment from like developers to like get this work done. So now that ambient is beta, I'm hoping to like bring this up several times so that who can will actually volunteer and pick up this work to get it done. And then I
Yeah, I
also
expect to have
saw
a
an
lot more time this release to move that forward.
awesome. So does that mean you're owning it, Mitch, or you'll still need support there as well?
Let me coordinate with John Howard to make sure that I understand all of the parts involved.
Yeah.
Thus far, I've taken ownership over the need to translate an operator YAML into a Helm values file. And I had a draft PR out. I let it expire. I need to revive it and dust it off and make some improvements to it, but that's made reasonable progress. I'm not clear on what additional scope needs to be covered in this work, and I think John had a good handle on that, so I'll touch base with him.
Okay. And then I also have bandwidth too. If there's like concrete work that you can probably pass on, that would be really good.
Great.
And I don't know if you saw, but Red Hat actually updated the issue saying that they actively are creating like a migration to another operator that they are going to support for
Yep.
controlling the Istio control plane. So I'm curious, like, what is Istio's approach to saying that this is the viable migration path and therefore work is done? So I guess it's a matter of reevaluating what we really need and what is okay.
As far as recommending users migrate to the sail operator,
Correct. If that satisfies our requirement to provide like a migration path for our current users on this.
yeah, I think it's unlikely that we would make that recommendation. Um, so sail is, I think it's happening in the and what is it called? The ecosystem
Ecosystem? Yep.
repository. And we don't tend to make strong statements to users about whether they ought to adopt those, particularly things in ecosystem don't have the full support of the Istio community. It's it's an Istio adjacent project that's interesting, but it doesn't have the same governance strategies, etc. That being said, a blog post on Istio.io about the sale operator and how it works, asking users to kick the tires. I think that would be very reasonable. I do think from an Istio core standpoint, we do still need to support migration from our operator to Helm. I think that'll be the path that we support as a community, if that makes sense.
I like that
That
clarity.
makes
Thank
sense.
you. Okay. So the action item there is figuring out what John still understands about this and understanding the work to do. And hopefully we can probably get like a list of issues that um Mitch you can work on as well as like other folks who have the bandwidth to get this done.
Yep. Yep.
Perfect. Something else that came up last sprint was I think we always discuss this is like the user feedback channels. Mitch, you're like the guru of that right now, where everyone is saying go to Mitch. You're really good at hosting like those like Twitter spaces and just understanding the use cases. And I believe Imran reached out to you around like what can we do to like ensure that users are thinking of providing feedback for telemetry API and just like improving that channel in general for like so that we actually can make decisions based on user input. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's certainly no silver bullet solution in this space. But it has been, I think, 6 months since we've hosted a Twitter Space event for feedback. If we have some concrete questions we'd like answers to, it might be time to try that again.
I like that. Especially after a really big release like this one. Um, this can be something we can discuss in the main working group to see high priority questions.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. And then it seems like right now we have a really good cadence of driving one feature up and out, as well as just identifying another feature to work on in the future milestone. So I am going to challenge everyone to like think of 1 to 3 features that we should consider maybe graduating in our next milestone. I don't know if anyone has thoughts top of mind, but at least I like this cadence where we always, at least we are the ones driving the conversation around like what really needs to be graduated or what needs to be removed. At least twice a year, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So the last time we proposed like features to deprecate, what worked was like bringing for us to shortlist a couple features and then bring it to the TOC meeting. So I'm hoping that between now and next month's TOC meeting, we can get like a short list or at least have the right questions so that the TOC can come up with the short list as well. So I'm not sure if anyone has any ideas top of mind around that.
Well, of course, the elephant in the room there is going to be ambient. Having gone to beta just last week, the next milestone is, of course, V1. And there's going to be certainly a lot of people already working on that. I don't think we need the enhancements group to try to drive that. However,
Yes, thank you.
we do probably have some expertise here, having driven a few other things to V1. It would be great for us to be helping the ambient working group or ambient meeting folks understand the bar for V1 and have a good burn down list, make sure that they've got a clear understanding of the path to GA, which of course is something that we've just recently walked. So that could be very helpful.
That's a really good call out. I don't know why I didn't think of ambient. Cool. So, and that works really well in the Istio community, like just riding the current momentum slash high priority thing, and that is ambient. So, that is all on my end for today. Does anyone else have anything else to discuss?
this feels like we're in good shape.
Yeah, I appreciated all the context shared. Thank you, everyone. Moving forward, we'll aim to just meet once a month right before the TOC meeting.
Sounds good.
Thanks a lot, Whitney.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks and congratulations. See ya.
Congratulations, everyone.